It's my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, Dean Carl Strickwater, who will open this conference for us.
Thanks, Berhanu, and welcome to all of you. Few colleges and universities in America have as celebrated a history as the College of William and Mary. Yet, as is so often the case in history, the fame of the college's early years obscures as much as it illuminates. Thomas Jefferson received his grounding in classical republicanism and began his lifelong fascination with science and Enlightenment ideas in the Wren Building, while African-American slaves supported the college with their coerced, unpaid labor. The College of William and Mary owned slaves. Leaders of the college were important defenders of slavery in antebellum America. And long after the Civil War, a large community of African-American residents of Williamsburg worked for the college, almost always for low pay and with almost no hope for advancement.
The purchase of slaves began at the top with Virginians who were members of the colony's council. These, aside from the royal governor, were the richest and most powerful planters in the colony. And by the 1630s and the 1640s, they started buying Africans as a matter of choice. By the late 1640s, most of the conditions that we would identify with African slavery were already in place. Late 1640s, service for life was the norm for those who were brought directly from Africa. A decade later, this practice began trickling down. In the 1650s and the 1660s, we find that county-level officers, the sheriffs, the justices of the peace, and the burgesses, the delegates to the assembly, began acquiring slaves. In terms of why slavery here, it's certainly my argument that it was a very thinking decision by a group of wealthy men who held all the political power, who were going for the bottom line, profit above all else.
What I'd like to do today is draw on a little bit of different parts of my dissertation to explain why I think slavery came to William and Mary from its very beginnings in the 1690s. And I think the reason is James Blair, because the same time that he was bringing slavery to William and Mary, he's also bringing slavery into the Anglican Church, and so can be thought of as, say, a founding father of institutionally owned slaves in Virginia. As commissary of the Church of England, James Blair had a serious problem: the scarcity of ministers and the perception that those ministers who were coming from Britain were of poor quality. So Blair took a multi-pronged approach to solving this problem of the scarcity and poor quality of Anglican ministers. Number one, recruit and retrain native-born clergy. When he established the College of William and Mary in 1693, he was eager for an institution that was going to train this clergy who would perhaps be more acceptable to Virginians than the ministers who came from Britain. Now, the second part of Blair's plan was to improve the financial incentives for clergymen, and this is how slavery fits into the picture.
There is an African-American, a slave folktale, but I think it is philosophy. It is how they thought about their world and shared with one another ways of coping with it. The plantation owner's son this child represents the plantocracy, he represents white people. And then there is the tar baby. The tar baby is this quasi-anthropomorphic, black, tar, gooey, silent thing that represents slavery, represents the moral wrongness, and there stood in the path the tar baby. And he did whatever he thought he should do to get it to move, and it didn't respond. It was there. And he kicked it and got his feet stuck, foot stuck. And he hit it, and he got his hand stuck. And he did everything he thought he should do and to make it do what he thought it should do, to get out of his way and let him go about his life without having to deal in any other way with the tar baby. The boy has to jump off the path and go through the briar patch if he is to pass beyond the tar baby. And what William and Mary has done for 300 years is everything but go through the briar patch. If you're not feeling a thorn or a thistle now and then that you weren't expecting, you are not in the briar patch.